All right, today we're breaking down a pretty stark military analysis of what's happening between the US and Iran in the Strait of Hormuz. And what this briefing suggests is that this is way more than just ships moving around. It's a calculated US strategy that's apparently pushing the Iranian regime right to its breaking point. So we're going to look at the naval blockade, the chaos that's supposedly erupting inside Iran's leadership, and what this source sees as the inevitable high-stakes endgame. Let's get right into it. So to really get where this analysis is coming from, you have to start with this incredibly blunt assessment from the source material. It's a provocative statement, for sure, but it frames the entire conflict as being profoundly one-sided. This is basically the foundation for the whole idea of U.S. strategic dominance that we're about to unpack.
Okay, so everything, and I mean everything, revolves around this one spot, this Strait of Hormuz. You've got to understand, this is one of the most vital waterways on the entire planet. It's a critical choke point for global oil, which means whoever controls this strait, well, they control a huge part of the world's economic lifeblood. This is the chessboard where the whole game is being played.
Now here's where it gets really interesting, according to this analysis. The big strategic reversal. The report says Iran's whole plan was to shut down the strait, basically holding the global economy hostage. But the U.S. military moved first, setting up its own blockade and, in effect, trapping Iran inside the very snare it was trying to set, a classic case of turning the tables. So let's drill down a little deeper into this U.S. naval blockade. According to the briefing, this is not just a few ships hanging around. No, this is an active, enforced campaign with a very clear goal: to completely cut off Iran's illegal trade and its military supply lines. And you want to know how effective it's been? Well, the proof is in the numbers, right? The analysis says the U.S. Navy has already turned around 27 different ships that tried to run the blockade. That number alone tells you just how much control they have over that stretch of water. And we're not talking about a polite, please turn around. The source lays out a very clear escalating process. We apparently saw it play out with the USS France. A ship tries to run the blockade, first a warning shot. When that's ignored, the destroyer fires disabling shots right into the engine room, stopping it dead in the water. And finally, you have Marines rappelling down from a helicopter to board and secure the vessel. The takeaway here is that the rules of engagement are crystal clear and very, very decisive. And this slide really shows you the impact of the blockade in real terms. It's not just about stopping ships, it's about what's on them. You've got tankers like the Tiffany carrying almost 2 million barrels of sanctioned oil, and then you have ships like the Tuska, caught with chemicals from China that were reportedly headed for Iran's ballistic missile program. Every single one of these seizures is a direct blow to the regime's wallet and its war machine. Now let's look at the hardware being used to enforce all this. The analysis really leans into the idea that the U.S. is leveraging a massive technological advantage. We're talking about a defense with multiple layers. You've got Apache helicopters for air cover, unmanned drones hunting for sea mines, and these sneaky surveillance subs like the Knife and Kingfish gathering intel underwater. All of it is anchored by heavy hitters like the destroyer USS Pinckney. According to the source, it's this technological overmatch that makes the blockade so tough to beat. But here's where it gets really interesting, according to this briefing. The biggest effects of the blockade aren't just happening on the water. All this external pressure is reportedly causing major fractures inside the Iranian regime. It's speeding up an internal power struggle that's apparently leading to total chaos. And you can literally see the chaos right here. On one side, you have the Iranian foreign minister trying to project calm, telling the world the strait is completely open. But at practically the same moment, you have a Revolutionary Guard spokesperson going on state TV and saying the exact opposite, that the strait is under their strict management and control. The source argues this isn't just a simple mix-up, it's proof of a deep public split at the very top. The source really just sums it all up with this quote: "The fact that there's no single coherent message suggests that no one is really in charge. You've got different factions just grabbing a microphone and trying to shout their own version of reality into existence, hoping it's the one that sticks." And it's not just a simple two-sided fight. The analysis points to several groups all jockeying for power. You've got figures like Ghalib, who seem to be part of a faction that wants to negotiate some kind of deal. But they're butting heads directly with hardliners in the Revolutionary Guard, people like Vahidi, who seem to be pushing for more conflict. It's essentially a regime at war with itself. So all this internal chaos brings us to what the briefing calls the strategic endgame. With the blockade squeezing them from the outside and the regime fracturing from the inside, Iran's leadership,
especially those hardliners who seem to be grabbing for control, is facing a very stark choice.
And, the clock is ticking. The source makes a huge point of this. While Iran has been busy with infighting, the U.S. has been building up its forces. American military power in the region is now reportedly twice what it was when this all started. More ships, more troops. The pressure is just going to keep mounting. So this is the choice, as the analysis lays it out. Path 1, the hardliners accept the situation, they work with the negotiators, and they try to salvage what they can with some kind of deal. Or, Path 2, they double down. They decide to test America's resolve and plunge back into full-scale combat, a move the source flat out calls a disaster for them. So you might be asking, why on earth would they even consider Path 2? The source calls it diabolical thinking. The hardliners might actually believe they can take a punch from the U.S. and survive. Their gamble is that political and economic pressure back in America will force the U.S. to stop before the job is done. And in their minds, if they're still in power at the end of it all, even if their country is in ruins, they've won. So what this analysis leaves us with is a picture of a decisive, powerful military force putting incredible pressure on a regime that's fractured and falling apart internally. The ultimate takeaway from the source material really is this final, powerful question, which perfectly sums up the tension of this whole situation and leaves us all to wonder what comes next.